Totem Pole Nation. We got football. We got things going on. It's Lambo's World of Sports. I introduce and I bring in one of the best guys in America that is a Dallas Cowboys fan, but it's not even just that. He knows sports, so it's nothing we have to worry about and whatnot. But Matthew Patterson, the GOAT, the sports guru, the big sports guy, introduce yourself to Total Pole Nation.
Well, appreciate you having me on. Matthew Patterson. I'm a senior at Virginia Tech. Me and Tyler have been friends for a while, so it was about time I came on and corrected him on some of his sports takes.
Correct me on some of the sports takes. All right. Well, in retrospect, we normally agree on some things, except when it comes to the Cowboys. He's a Cowboys fan. I'm a Patriots fan. I know the Patriots have not been doing good, but I'm gonna start off with the Jets. All right, the Jets with the bad offensive line. In Hard Knocks, Robert Saleh was very, very frustrated in the team meeting when they had a joint practice with the Carolina Panthers. He was just very frustrated. He wasn't very, happy and whatnot. And with the Jets, how do you feel about the Jets? Because their first 6 weeks of the schedule is not easy.
No, it's not easy at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if they came out of it like 3-3 around there, which given the talent that they've brought in with Cook, they still have Breece Hall. That's going to be a crazy backfield. Aaron Rodgers, hopefully, last year was his first year going over 10 interceptions since 2011. So I don't think it's a trend that he'll continue to play that way. And good QB play typically helps out the offensive line.
Well, that is somewhat true. I've said previously, and I've told Coach Taylor this, who was a coach at LC Bird that I still coach with to this day. He thinks that the Jets are going to go win the division. I said the Jets go 10-7, just because the chemistry is going to take a while. It's not something that's going to be assumed week one, because week one on Monday Night Football they play the Buffalo Bills now. The Buffalo Bills has won the division for 3 years. And the first 6 games is tough. The Buffalo Bills, especially with that bad O-line that they have right now, will they improve? Maybe. We'll see how it goes in Hard Knocks. But just looking at this, you have Buffalo on Monday Night Football, second in scoring defense. And in week 2 and week 3, you play the Cowboys and you play the Patriots, which surprisingly last year, not surprisingly because the Cowboys have always been good, but numbers-wise, they tied third for sacks, which is very impressive. That's not something I really paid attention to, but they tied for third in sacks. Then you play this defending Super Bowl champions of the Kansas City Chiefs, who were second in sacks. And then you play a new Denver Broncos team in Sean Payton, Russell Wilson. I'm not sure if he's the same quarterback, but Denver's always had a good defense. They're second and third down percentage. And then you play the Eagles, who went to the Super Bowl last year, and they're first in sacks. But the Eagles are going to be a little bit different team because you lost the offensive coordinator, you lost your defensive coordinator. You lost a lot of guys. So I think with the Jets, surprisingly, they might come out 4-2 maybe. The reason why I say 4-2 because the NFL, you never know. They could beat the Patriots maybe one time. But I know the last time the Jets beat the Patriots was 2016, I think, with Ryan Fitzpatrick in that overtime game where I guess Belichick just said, we're just going to, lose the coin toss or whatever it was, and we gave up a touchdown. But, I mean, looking at the Jets' point of view, I think, they'll be all right. They'll be 10-7. They'll be third in the division because I have the Patriots number 2 in the division because of a new – Here's why. Hold on, wait a minute. Bill O'Brien's back as the offensive coordinator. So we have an offensive coordinator. We don't have any excuses to be sorry. We got Mike Gesicki from the Miami Dolphins. We have Hunter Henry from the Chargers. We got rid of Johnny Smith. Sorry ass. He was sorry. He wasn't good. You got Ramondre Stevenson. You got Zeke Elliott. I'm telling you, Zeke Elliott.
It's big. That's big.
He's not the same player now. I'm not saying he's the same player he was with the Cowboys. He's out of shape a little bit. I'm not saying he's the 2016 Zeke Elliott, but he brings in that the LeGarrette Blount factor that we had in 2016, that big back presence. Ramondre Stevenson's going to get the touches. Then you got Juju Smith-Schuster. You got Kendrick Bourne. You got Tyquan Thornton. So the reason why I say the Patriots at number 2 is because you have the talent. You have an offensive coordinator. You have no excuses. Mac Jones did get hurt last year. I never used that as an excuse at all, but Bailey Zappi is pretty good. There could be some potential saying if Mac Jones goes down, do we bring up Bailey Zappi because he was very good last year for 2 games? I guess, especially that Green Bay Packers game last year, because I mean that game was almost a tie, but he did excellent and then turn the ball over. What do you think about the Patriots possibly being second, even though you just don't agree with that? And then we play y'all week 4, so we're gonna put some money on that too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's not that I don't see the improvements because they definitely made them. They're offense wise last year they were 17th in scoring. Bringing in Zeke will definitely help with. Ramondre only had 5 touchdowns on the ground, and so when the dude has that many touches, you definitely expect more than 5. Zeke, big role for us last year in Dallas, was punching it in. Pollard had majority of the yards outside of that. Your defense is great. Not going to knock on that, but you got to play the Dolphins twice, the Jets twice, and the Bills twice. And so for me, in a perfect world, those are all split down the middle, 1-1. You might lose both to the Bills, and I could see losing both to the Jets. Not going to lie.
No.
I'm just saying. Like you said earlier, dude, it's the NFL. Anything could happen, and I just think that when it comes down to talent, like you're just not matching up with those other 3 teams in the division. Now you do have the Bill Belichick factor, which kind of outweighs a lot of the other stuff, but you're not playing against rookie QBs anymore. Like you don't get Zach Wilson twice a year. Like you got Aaron Rodgers now twice a year. You got Josh Allen twice a year, and then you got an offense with Waddle and Tyreek Hill twice a year.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. You are absolutely correct. But I mean, even with Zach Wilson last year, the game went 3-3 until Marcus Jack Jones, whoever scored a returning touchdown. It was a terrible game. That showed you that Matt Patricia should have just stayed retired or should have been calling the defense. You can't have Matt Patricia and Joe Judge calling plays. That just doesn't work at all. But
Bill O'Brien,
they're gone.
he will help.
They're
Mac.
gone.
He's
He just like Josh McDaniels did before he got the head coaching job. Yes, please. Yeah. I mean, he's been under Nick Saban for the past 2 years, so you shouldn't lose any football knowledge around Nick Saban.
No,
but
no.
I'll take it as that. I take it as that for right now. But I think the big question is, what teams do you think will fall off the cliff in 2023?
Well, I mean, it's hard to
Just
say fall off the cliff.
Anything.
I don't think that the Steelers, like, I don't see Kenny making that next step. Now, their defense is phenomenal, but I mean, I might just be a hater. I don't really see it. Najee, when you look at some numbers and stuff, and this might just be me like focusing on fantasy too much and not real world stuff. Najee's numbers haven't looked great past 2 years, and their backup isn't a scrub. So I could see a little bit split in the backfield, which could then slow that offense down. But they've got a lot of talent, and I think people are thinking high things for them. I personally just don't see that next step coming.
Well, I mean, I agree because I'm go ahead. I'm ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, all you.
All right, so I am ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers, they won't have a losing record because Mike Tomlin went 16, 17 straight seasons without a losing record. And I thought last year they were going to have a losing record, but the Browns. The Browns are the Browns. They're not going to do anything, and they folded. But the Steelers, good defense, they're inconsistent. Like they had really bad losses the last 5 years, especially with Big Ben. They just had bad losses in the playoffs, especially the one against the Browns in 2020. I mean, where's Baker Mayfield now? Baker Mayfield is competing for a job for the Bucs. It's between him and Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. Yeah. I mean, he's not that good of a quarterback. But I'm going to shock America with this one because I got 4 teams. 14, I wouldn't say that fall off a cliff, but like they have the expectations of them to be good, but they might go down. number one is going to be the Denver Broncos. Here's why. Sean Payton is not a very patient dude. Russell Wilson is an older quarterback. All right. The Broncos went through that terrible last season. He has to revamp the whole locker room. He has to revamp the whole front office. They have a new front office, by the way, because I think they put money into a new stadium or whatnot and something like that. So Sean Payton's not patient. He hasn't been in rebuild mode since 2006 with the New Orleans Saints. Even when he was the head coach of the New Orleans Saints that first year, he took them to the NFC Championship game when they got smacked by the Bears. So I think the Broncos are going to have a lot of questions. Is Russell Wilson going to be the same quarterback he once was with the Seattle Seahawks? What does Russell Wilson want to do? Does he want to be mobile like he was with the Seahawks? Does he want to run? Or does he want to be a pocket passer? So that's the questions along the line. The defense is always great. Now, if the receivers can stay healthy, that might be an issue as well. If the receivers can't stay healthy either. So we'll see how that goes. Number two, the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski, ladies and gentlemen, is on the hot seat. He is on the hot seat. Ever since Kevin Stefanski became the head coach, his wins have decreased every single year. They decreased. Regardless of injuries, you've been through about 5 different starting quarterbacks. I mean, you had Baker Mayfield, you had Jacoby Brissett. Go ahead.
Baker, it wasn't like it was shocking to me how that whole thing played out. Like, he led them to the playoffs. They get a win over the Steelers in the playoffs. And then you go into the next year and they just want to rush him out. He had a torn labrum in his shoulder. Yeah, that might affect his accuracy a good amount, I would say. And they had him throwing the ball 60 times a game. And it's like, you can't expect the quarterback to play well under those conditions. And then it's all on him. He gets the boot. He's gone. You bring in Deshaun Watson for a terrible contract. And it just doesn't make any sense. It seems like the Browns are going to continue to be the Browns.
I do agree with that. And I think Jacoby Brissett starting for Deshaun Watson with the 11-game suspension last year, they didn't get any better. They almost didn't pay. I think Nick Chubb, not sure if he wanted to be in or out. Kareem Hunt, I think, is no longer on the team or something. So they ran a lot of pieces out the door. I think the quarterback of the future, I'm not sure yet. I like Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA. I think he did very, very good under the Chip Kelly system. Surprisingly, Chip Kelly goes back to the college rankings, and UCLA was a top team last year. Like, not in the top 10, but I mean, they didn't lose but 2 games last year. So I think DTR has a lot of potential. But it's the Cleveland Browns.
He's shown it for sure.
If Johnny Manziel didn't succeed, if you watch The Untold on Netflix, if Johnny Manziel didn't succeed in Cleveland because he had 0 hours of film study, I don't think DTR will succeed because it's just Cleveland. It's just Cleveland. I think he'll succeed somewhere else. But for the Browns, Browns would be 4th in the division. With the AFC North, I'll explain that later, but I think the Browns just won't be that good this year. Number 3, I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys, not because I'm a hater, but wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Wait a minute. Here's why. You paid Dak Prescott all that money. You pay that man all that money. He's only won 2 playoff games in 9 seasons. By the way, I'm not comparing anything, but Jalen Hurts has the same amount of playoff wins in 1 season with a new coach, with a new coach that you never heard of, Nick Sirianni. But with the Cowboys, you got high expectations of the Cowboys. Dak Prescott had the most interceptions last year with Josh Allen. Dak Prescott came out this year saying he won't throw no more than 10 interceptions. He should have just kept his mouth shut. Now
he said tipped. That was misquoted. He said tipped interception.
Well, all right. Well, tipped, whatever. I think Dak Prescott, I think he's a good quarterback. He's a top 15 quarterback. I'm not putting that man in the top 10. He's a good, consistent quarterback. But you know how the Cowboys roll. When it comes time for them to win a playoff game, they won't win the playoff game. They just won't win. They might lose to the 49ers again. We don't know what's going to happen, but the Cowboys are the Cowboys. We have to wait and see what happens. So they'll be 12-5 again. Like last year, they'll beat the Giants. They'll beat the sorry Commanders. But they had a losing record against teams above 500 last year. So I mean, I'm not sold on the Cowboys. I'm not, even though I'm a hater, I'm going to be realistic about the Cowboys. It's always high because every year. It's always, we're going to win the Super Bowl every year. It's always this. But not just the Cowboys. They're not the only third team. The last team that might fall off a cliff is the Chargers. Because you see what the Chargers did last year. I predict the future. I said the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to come back and win that game. And the reason why I said it is because the Chargers play calling, which is very bad last year. Now, Mike McCarthy wants to call plays. You send Kellen Moore to Justin Herbert. Now that might be sick. You send Kellen Moore to Justin Herbert. The play calling might be better than whoever the offensive coordinator was, like something Lombardi, Joe Lombardi, who was the former offensive coordinator for the Chargers. You got Kellen Moore over there, but the Chargers are the Chargers. I mean, you're playing in a tough division with the Raiders, the Chiefs. It's a very tough AFC West division. It's just tough. So I don't see them. They might not even be in a playoff spot. It's just a tough division. The AFC is stacked. I mean, you got the Bengals, you got the Dolphins, you got the Bills. I mean, it's a stacked AFC. The Chargers with Brandon Staley on the hot seat, especially after that collapse of a playoff loss they had. And plus, they have plenty of talent. Austin Eckler led the league in rushing touchdowns last year. They didn't even get his contract renewed. Like, he didn't get a long-term deal. So there's something wrong along the lines. You still have Mike Williams. You still have Keenan Allen. I like Josh Palmer. I mean, that guy is awesome. They have an
Quentin
old tight
Johnson.
end. I'm not sure if he retired or not, or whoever it is. Oh, yeah. There you go. That tight end. So they have – the
No.
Chargers
Quentin
have
Johnson's
talent. They just don't win.
wide receiver they just got.
Oh yeah. No, I was talking about the tight end. I thought they had like an older
Was
tight
it
end
Jared
they had
Cook or
last year. I
something?
can't remember his name. It was like an older. Yeah, Jared Cook from the Saints. Yeah, Jared Cook from the Saints. Yeah, it's been so long, but yeah, the Chargers have talent. I'm not comparing the Chargers to the Cowboys, but the Chargers have talent. They just can't win it. So Brandon stays on the hot seat, so it's going to be a lot of pressure. Plus, it's L.A. I mean, you got the Chargers and the Rams playing in the same stadium, so a lot of L.A. hype. So those are going to be the four teams that are going to fall off the cliff. Now, I have good news. Not even good news, but the 49ers situation, okay? 49ers went to the NFC Championship game with four quarterbacks. And they went through Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, Josh Johnson. They went through four quarterbacks and still had the ability to beat the Dallas Cowboys and make the NFC Championship game. Now, I understand Brock Purdy wasn't hurt until the Eagles game, but they somehow just made it through three quarterbacks and still succeed. Kyle Shanahan tree, run the football and whatnot. But who do you think is going to be the future for the 49ers? Is it Brock Purdy? Because Brock Purdy, I mean, everybody got the Brock Purdy hype, but everybody say the man only played 8 games. He's only played 9 games. Now he's going to play a full season. Trey Lance has been struggling in practice. I know he's coming off a broken ankle, but who's the future quarterback for the 49ers? Because they have a loaded, a wide receiver core, a running back core, a good tight end, and George Kittle. Who's the future quarterback? Is it Brock Purdy or is it Trey Lance?
I think it's got to be Brock Purdy. So he only threw 150 yards a game, but he did it throwing 67% with 13 touchdowns to only 4 picks. So when you look at what worked in the past for them, it's been game managers, like in recent history, and it's been Jimmy G. He's been able to game manage to where he's not the reason that they are losing. And with the efficiency that Brock had, again, only throwing 150 yards a game, and he doesn't run at all. I think he can be that Jimmy G until he progresses into maybe a step above that. But I don't think it can be Trey Lance. I just, like you said, hearing nothing but bad things about him. And honestly, like Sam Darnold could, based on what we're hearing out of camp and everything, like he could probably be the second string quarterback by the time the season starts.
I did watch a little bit of Sam Darnold. I did watch a little bit of him. I forgot he was with the 49ers, so I watched until I peeped the preseason game. But I think he'll fit in the Kyle Shanahan tree. I think he'll try to rebuild his career. I'm not sure if he'll be a starter in the future, but he can rebuild his career, and I think that's a good second option to have. But also, there was a story that came out about Kyle Shanahan that they beat the Eagles last year. He was going to go ahead and sign Phillip Rivers. He was going to sign He already came out and said he was going to sign Phillip Rivers. That came out like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm going to go ahead and sign Phillip Rivers to, play. He was ready to go and all this other stuff. But I think the 49ers have been a good, consistent team. They lost defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator is now the head coach of the Texans, who was a former player that played for the Texans from 2006 to 2011. D'Amico Ryans. How do you feel about before I get to that part with with the Houston Texans? How do you feel about D'Amico Ryans and the Texans? Are you a big C.J. Stroud guy? I mean, C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, he was very, good. Ohio State is a throwing team, but are you sold on C.J. Stroud?
I don't think I'm sold on any of these dudes, really, like any of them that got drafted, Bryce included. Now,
Hmm.
for different reasons, obviously, the only thing you hear about Bryce is how freaking smart he is. Like he can just process everything. But I mean, even in the preseason game, he's getting abused back there. Like their O line is bad as well. And the joint practice with the Jets as well. He was getting, I mean, what's his face had 11 sacks in practice. Like that's
Quinn Williams.
ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. 11. Like, and that's just what they showed. I'm sure there's other stuff too. So, like, granted, the Jets' defensive line is very good, but going back to CJ Stroud, I'm nervous about him decision making wise. I think when you're in college and you're this big, like successful QB, it gets kind of like people don't always realize how much more advanced defenses are in the NFL. And like in college, if they line up and it looks like they're in a cover two man, they're in a cover two man. But then you go to the NFL and there's disguises. You have to recognize the blitzes, like all that. And I don't know. Talent wise, he's there. He's got it. He's got a cannon. He can move around if he needs to. He's accurate, but he can be as accurate if you want. If you're throwing a bad pass, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That brings me to another point. You talk about accuracy, right? How do you feel about Jordan Love? Now, Jordan Love played in last night's game against the Patriots. Of course, I peeped the game because it's the second game in preseason. Starters are gonna play. Um, I said on my previous episode of Lambos with the sports that the Packers will be third in the division. They'll be behind the Lions and the Vikings. I'm not sold on Jordan Love. I don't think he has a lot of college film. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a good 3 years. He played okay last night, except for the fumble was way over his head. That's not his fault when the Patriots scored. But as Packer fans and Packer fans around the nation, are we really sold on Jordan Love? Because I'm not. I'm not sold on Jordan Love at all. And I think disrespectfully, Colin Coward had the Packers at 6-11. Disrespectfully.
Yeah, 6-11 is kind of harsh. I don't know. I think it's impossible to, carry a torch from Aaron Rodgers and live up to any expectations that are set. Like, unless it's the same thing as it was when Aaron came in after Brett left. And in the next, 3 years, 2 years, they're in the Super Bowl. So, unless that somehow happens, which their defense is good, it was supposed to be good last year. They sucked. So, like, we'll see. But I don't know if I'm completely sold on them just because, it's really hard to follow up a top 2, 3 quarterback all time.
I do agree. And Matt LaFleur, we don't know who the hell Matt LaFleur was. He was a former offensive coordinator under Ryan Tannehill, and we didn't know who the guy was. And I mean, when he had Aaron Rodgers, he went three straight seasons of 13-3, and then last year they went on a slump. They went on the biggest slump that you've ever seen. I think after that Patriots game, they barely got by with a third string quarterback. They went on a complete slump, and then they won all their games in December when they beat the Miami Dolphins, who was called Tua turned the ball over 3 times. I mean, that's his nickname. Tua turned the ball over. They couldn't. They lost to the Lions twice last year. The Lions.
Yeah.
Remember the Lions? Gentlemen were 1-7 last year, and they had a winning record for the first time since 2016. They were 1-7. Ladies and gentlemen,
With like the
one
worst
in seven,
defense in the league.
worst defense in the league. Their offense was statistically number one. Statistically, it was number one, but the defense was bad. But the Green Bay Packers, they're not going to be the same team ever again. I think I don't know if I'm being too hypocritical. Matt LaFleur could be on the hot seat as well because I'm thinking, does the GM and the Green Bay Packers does he reset everything? Do they have a reset? Because if Jordan Love is not the answer, and Matt LaFleur that was his first losing season last year, do the Green Bay Packers possibly reset if the GM doesn't like things at all? Because you gave away Aaron Rodgers in a trade. You took the receivers with him. I mean, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazar. I mean, you
Yeah.
took them with them. I'm surprised you didn't take their running backs with them either. I mean, you basically took the whole package. Do the Green Bay Packers, if they're not somewhat competitive, do they rebuild and do they rebuild? Do they get rid of the
Yeah, I mean
coach?
it's tough because like as long as I've been like watching football and knowing what I'm watching, like I haven't seen the Packers bad unless it was when Aaron like broke his collarbone or something like that. Like those are really the only seasons where you see them not performing. So it's weird, and we really have no idea because since we've been around, it hasn't happened. So I mean, maybe they're lucky and they can get a few like 9-win seasons for LaFleur to like keep his job and try to build something with a new foundation. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go 6-11 this year and then they followed up with like a 7-win season the next. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt was out after that and then they started a rebuild because Christian Watson's good and I think Dobbs is pretty good too. And then their defense is also like it's good. They just don't perform, and then people get hurt and all that. So, I mean, who
I,
knows? But
I
I could see it happening.
I do agree. And then before I get off the NFC North topic and go to another topic, um, Justin Fields. Do you think Justin Fields is the answer? Now I know they've got a new GM and Ryan Poles. Matt Eberflus, who was a former defensive coordinator for the Colts, is the second year as the head coach. They got Chase Claypool last year, and somewhat. Are the Bears better than they were
DJ
last year?
Moore.
DJ Moore, yes, as well from the Panthers. So, are the Bears going to be good this year? Is Justin Fields going to be a bust if he doesn't perform this year?
Ah, I don't know if it's a bust. I think second year with the new coach, new system, everything. So getting used to it. He's got to get the accuracy down on balls that are more than 5 yards in the air. Like we saw Khalil Herbert and DJ Moore take those to the house in the preseason game last week. And we knew that he could throw dump offs. Like we knew he can do that. We know he can run just as well as anybody. So I think the team is better. They added 2 good linebackers. But I mean, improvement going from the first overall pick, like what were they 3-13-1 or something like that. Like I think they could win 6 maybe this year, maybe 7, but I do have them coming in last in that division for sure. And I have the Packers third as well. I think the Vikings and the Lions will be fighting that out, and one of those two will get a wild card spot.
I do agree. I'm not sold on the Bears. The best barber I have in America is a Bears fan, and he just talk. All thing he could talk about last year is how about we smacked the Patriots on Monday Night Football. I said, look, we had a 4th-string quarterback. He won good, whatever it was. Don't really care. Doesn't really bother me. But the Bears hadn't won anything since the Michael Jordan era, and then the football they hadn't been to the NFC Championship game since Jay Cutler was their quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Cutler was their quarterback the last time they went to the NFC Championship game, and the last time they went to a divisional round. Mitch Trubisky was your quarterback. All right. Now I think they should have got Pat Mahomes, but that's a different story for later.
Yeah, it's easy to say that now.
It is. But who will win the NFC West? I'm gonna pick. I think the NFC West division, like I said, is tough. I'm gonna pick the 49ers to win it. Don't be surprised if the Seahawks get in because the Seahawks. Nobody expected the Seattle Seahawks to even get into the playoffs last year with Geno Smith leadership. He's revamped his career after his horrible stint with the Jets, the Giants, and whatnot. Don't be surprised Seattle competes with the 49ers. If the 49ers don't get their quarterback situation started, we're not, like I said, we're not sure how good Brock Purdy's gonna be for 18 games now. We've seen it for 8. We got to see it for a full season of Brock Purdy, but we've seen it from Geno Smith. Did the Seahawks compete with the 49ers for the NFC West, or did the 49ers still reign the top regards to the defense.
Yeah, I see the Niners having a very similar record as last year at 13-4. I mean, they had, and like I said earlier, he was averaging 150 yards per game. They still had the sixth best scoring offense in football. Like, that's with a game manager who only played 9 games. So then in your other games, you've got a dude that's in for a game and gets hurt, and then another guy comes in and he gets hurt, and that's how we got to Brock. And through all of that, they still had the sixth best offense in football, best defense in football. I think on paper, you could say that they are, I mean, a top 3 roster in the NFL. They got studs everywhere. And I don't really see, like, it's up to Brock, really, is what it is, to just be able to manage all that. But I think the Seahawks will fight for a wild card spot. I think they'll be second in the division, but I don't think they're going 13-4. JSN
I
is
get
nice
this.
though. JSN is nice on the Seahawks.
Jackson Smith.
That receiving core up there is nice.
Jackson
DK
Smith.
Jackson and Tyler Lockett.
It's nice. I will give the Seahawks 10-7. Last year they were 9-8. I'll give them a 1-win difference. They'll be better. They still have the same old defensive coordinator. The defense won't be the Legion of Boom defense, but it'll be consistent enough to win games. It's not the Legion of
Yeah.
Boom. You don't have Richard Sherman. You don't have, you know, you don't have the guys no more. You don't have a Cam Chancellor, none of that. But I'll get the Seahawks 10-7, and I'll probably get the 49ers at worst 12-5. 13-4 is good with me, but 12-5 at the worst. Now, who wins the AFC North? I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, everybody says the Baltimore Ravens, but I'm not sure if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy. He signed that man
I think
I think his contract was a. Go ahead.
no. I'm with you. It's concerning that the injuries have happened the past 2 years, but you look before now.
Yes.
Obviously, wear and tear of football, it gets easier to get injured. But you look before that, he didn't really have any big injuries up until that point in the first place. And I think, like, their defense is good. They got better with Clowney coming in, but they just lost Marlon Humphrey. So that sucks. Their offense obviously got better. They actually have wide receivers to throw the ball to. Zay Flowers is disgusting. His route running is insane. OBJ is obviously OBJ. And if they could get this J.K. Dobbins situation, figured out to where he's happy and he's the guy that they're committed to, because apparently I've read that he's not super happy with how they're dealing with him, but like, they have the talent to do it. But I agree with you. I think the Bengals, there's too many weapons, studs on both sides of the ball. I'm with you. It'll be tight. And they'll both be in the playoffs.
I do agree. I think the Ravens will improve. If Lamar Jackson has a healthy season, they might win the division. And the reason why I say they might win the division is because they got the offensive coordinator from Georgia, ladies and gentlemen, Todd Monken. All right, he led Georgia to back-to-back national champions. He's new OC. He's very aggressive. He has good play design. I mean, look what he did with Stetson Bennett. I mean, nobody thought Stetson Bennett with Georgia was that guy. But now when you add an OBJ as well, Lamar Jackson, I think it just opens up the playbook a lot more. But that's if they stay healthy. And from the Ravens the past 2 years, they hadn't stayed healthy. But before they hadn't stayed healthy, there was 1 year, ladies and gentlemen, when the Ravens started off the season 8-3 and lost 6 straight games. 6 straight games, especially that very, very, very close loss to the Steelers where they went for 2, and I guess he mishandled it. No, Mark Andrews dropped the ball or something like that. It was off balance and whatnot. So the Ravens have a tendency of starting good and finishing like crap. And it happened in 2021, but also last season it happened as well, where we thought they beat the crap out the Miami Dolphins. But the Miami Dolphins came back being down 14-35. And the score was 42-38. So the Ravens are known for blowing leads. At the same time, they start off good, they're gonna blow leads. Lamar Jackson, he's good. Did they give the man too much money? Maybe.
I don't think so. He's an MVP.
Nah, I know, but he's just always hurt. He just it's this back to back seasons has been hurt, and I don't want him to get hurt, but he might get hurt again. It's always something. It's always a banged knee or somebody can fall on his leg. I mean, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. He's a mobile quarterback. I mean, look what happened to RG3. He ain't last long in the league because I mean he just took unnecessary
Uh,
hits and you know.
Washington messed that up. They
Yeah,
mishandled that thing. Yeah, so bad.
I just
I
don't
was
want to play with.
terrified. I was terrified to play the R words at the time,
Yes,
dude. I was. Oh my god, I hated it. I hated it. He's so good,
I
or
agree.
was so good.
I agree with that too. I just don't want the same thing to happen to Lamar Jackson. He got his
Yeah,
money, but just he needs to bulk up in muscle. He's still a little bit skinny. He needs to bulk up in muscle. I just have a feeling that it's gonna come someday. I don't wish it on anybody, but it's gonna come on Sunday. Somebody gonna hit him so hard. The Ravens don't really have a good backup quarterback. I mean, the backup quarterback is Anthony Richardson. Um, you know, shit.
no, Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley as well. I think he's still on the squad, but they have somebody else as well besides Tyler Huntley as well. I just thought of it in my head,
Oh
but
no. I don't know.
I thought I think they have somebody else. I mean, it's Anthony. I know it's Anthony something, but
Yeah, Anthony
I might have
Richardson's on the Colts.
not Richardson. I ain't looking for not Richardson. I'm wrong. Hold on, give me a second. I ain't wrong. Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown. That's what I was thinking. Anthony Brown. So
Got you.
Anthony Brown, quarterback. And Josh Johnson as well, who played for the 49ers last year, and Tyler Huntley. So that's their three quarterbacks. So I was thinking Anthony something, and it popped up Richardson, but it was actually Anthony Brown. So as I was looking at it earlier, I was wrong, Totem Pole. I apologize. I barely wrong half the time. But I make my mistakes. But we're gonna get into these good previews, and we're gonna start with college football, ladies and gentlemen, because college football does start this week. By the way, we got a lot of good games going on. First thing I'm going to start with is UNC versus South Carolina, the Battle of the Carolinas. This is a prime time game, ABC at 7:30. You got Drake May, who is a very good quarterback. You got Spencer Rattler. You got Shane Beamer, Mac Brown. I mean, it's at South Carolina. South Carolina's home game. Who wins between UNC and South Carolina?
So I got UNC winning, and here's why. So this is last year's stats. They were putting up 34 points a game. They did allow 31. That was 102nd in the country. So normally it's like, oh my God, that's awful. You go over to South Carolina, they put up a little bit less points and they gave up a little bit less. They're 88th in the country in scoring defense. So neither one of these schools has a good defense. UNC lost a lot in the portal. They got a few guys to replace, but it wasn't, I don't know, like their defense is definitely not the strong suit, but you got to trust the second best quarterback in college football, and that's Drake May. I mean, 700 rushing yards last year, 4,300 passing, and the Tar Heels were 6-0 on the road last year. All like their three losses that weren't at neutral site games were at home. They were perfect on the road. The offense played better on the road, and I don't really trust Spencer Rattler that much. Now I might be biased from watching him on QB1 those years ago. I I just don't think he's got it, man. I don't think he's got it.
Well, I mean, ladies and gentlemen,
Forty-five
South Carolina.
thirty-eight. 45-38.
I think it might be a low scoring game. Here's why it might be a low scoring game. It's week one. Mistakes will happen. Penalties will happen. It's a prime time game in South Carolina. It's going to be crowded, loud noise. Do I think Spencer Rattler is better than Drake May? No, I do not think that at all. Drake May is obviously the better quarterback. He has the better stats. The numbers say it. He was a Heisman candidate last year. But ladies and gentlemen, nobody expected South Carolina last year to go 8-4. They beat Clemson. They beat Tennessee. So they beat some really, really good teams last year. They have a good running game, but Spencer Rattler has to not turn the ball over. Okay, he has
Yeah.
to not turn the ball over. I wouldn't say any bad losses they had for South Carolina, but as me being a second favorite team in Notre Dame, when I watched the bowl game, South Carolina had Notre Dame in the ropes last year, and they just lost. Notre Dame's just a better team, but I'm gonna pick UNC to win this one. South Carolina might lose at home, but if I'm going to bet on DraftKings or whatnot and win some parlays in college football because it's a lot easier than NFL some days, I'm going to pick UNC. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I'll give it 27-23. It's going to come down to a fourth down, and UNC is going to stop on defense when it really matters. That's what it's
Gotcha.
going to
Well,
come down.
the line on that game is -3 South Carolina. So I would not take the -3 in
I
my
don't take
opinion.
I don't
Yeah,
I don't
you're
take
with me
minuses
there
at all.
too.
I don't take minuses.
Well, so they do have a good running game, but they lost their top back from last year. He led the team in total scrimmage yards and rushing yards. And Spencer doesn't add anything in the run game. He ran for 50 yards last year. He doesn't add anything there. I think the difference in our scoring predictions to me is that the defense is the weak points for both teams. And if both defenses are coming out a little sloppy and you got one of the best QBs in the nation on one side, I think that score can get pretty high.
That can happen, but the reason why I say it's going to be a low score because I think it's going to come down to some type of time possession. You're talking about the first game of the year. You're not going to throw everything out there, especially if certain programs. You're not going to throw the whole playbook in the first quarter. I mean, you might die it down,
Yeah.
wait to the second, wait halftime to throw everything out. Like I said, the people are the players are getting their feet wet. The coaches are getting their feet wet. I mean, they hadn't played in a whole year. There's no like preseason for them except for practices within themselves. So the reason why I say it's gonna be a low scoring game is because time of possession. I think the special teams will always have a factor in it. Special teams will be key. It could be a couple missed field goals. It could be a blocked punt. I mean, special teams is always key in college football, whether you see it or not. It's gonna come unexpectedly. Not saying they won't score high. They score high. Hey, I'm wrong. But I just think it's gonna be low scoring just because it's a new teams, new players, same system. You got the same quarterbacks, but it's the same time as game one. I mean, I find it hard for the score to be that high, but if it's that high, it's that high. So I'm gonna go to this game right here. West Virginia versus Penn State. I did not watch any Penn State at all last year. The reason why is because I pay attention more of the SEC and more of Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, but surprisingly, Penn State went 11-2 last year. Sean Clifford, I think, was their former quarterback. He went to the NFL. He plays for the Packers because he played last night. I'm going to take Penn State on this one, despite Penn State having a new quarterback. West Virginia hasn't been good since Lord knows when. I'm going to take Penn State.
Since
Penn State
Gino.
has a very since Gino. I was thinking somebody else, but I'm going to take Penn State at home, and it might be a blowout.
Oh, I'm with you. So the line is 20.5. So the books
Ooh,
are expecting Penn State to roll them. And I'm with it because the West Virginia team has a new quarterback as well. And here are the differences between both teams' new QBs. West Virginia's guy, Garrett Green, he's a junior. He's 5'11", 190, and he was a 3-star coming in. Now we go over to Drew Aller or Alar for Penn State. 6'5", 240. That's Anthony Richardson.
ooh.
That's a dog. That he's big. Former 5-star. He's a sophomore this year, so he sat behind, watched all the success. Penn State's got a great running back room. They lost a backup to go somewhere else, but I don't think that's going to slow down that team at all. Both losses last year were to top 5 teams. They did not have an easy schedule, and they had a top 20 offense and a top 10 defense. So, and they got a stud wide receiver in the transfer portal. 49-17, and they're lucky if they score 17.
This score might be worse than that. I'm gonna take 52-10. I
Yeah,
think Penn
that's what I'm
State
saying.
is
They're
gonna roll
lucky
them.
at 17.
I'm gonna be disrespectful to West Virginia. It's gonna be 52-10. The reason why I say 52-10 is I think Penn State gonna get what they want on offense. Penn State's always had a good defense. Brent Pry was a former defensive coordinator for Penn State, who's now a Virginia Tech head coach, which we'll talk about that next. But Penn State, they'll be good. They'll be legit. Um, they'll be legit. They'll be good. But the only way they'll be known is it'd be a top four team to play for the college football playoff because they were a sleeper team last year at 11-2. Just nobody really talked about Penn State because everybody talked about Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. So they weren't really talked about last year. I think Penn State was a very, very, very quiet football team last year that went 11-2. They won the Rose Bowl last year. So I mean, Penn State, they're gonna blow them out the water. It's not really too much to say about West Virginia. Um, I ain't got nothing to say about them. But the next thing I'm gonna talk about is Old Dominion versus Virginia Tech, 8 o'clock on the ACC Network. I am a Virginia Tech fan as well, as long as a Notre Dame fan. Um, I've talked and said, and I'm a big fan of Brent Pry. Now I can't respect Brent Pry because the he was on our episode in February, the coaches football clinic, the championship coaches football clinic. He was on our channel back in February, so I can't disrespect the man at all. Um, Brent Pry is the defensive minded. I think he's a good coach. He's defensive minded, but the offense is bad as hell. The offense is terrible.
Very bad.
I went to the game last year against Miami for free. We peaked Totem Pole Nation. There's a video that I went on the actual field when the team came out for free. So it's a whole video access and whatnot. But who's their quarterback? And Old Dominion did beat Virginia Tech last year, game 1.
Yeah. So a big thing about last year. So to answer your first question, it looks right now that Grant Wells is going to be the quarterback, which I'm not pumped about, but I can see the difference between, Kyron Jones coming over from Baylor, former 4-star, like very talented guy, super dynamic. But he doesn't know the playbook and the system as well as Grant does. So I think that's where it is. I do think we'll see both of them this year. The unfortunate thing of that mindset is that if we're seeing both, that means something's probably going wrong with one of them. So not what I want, but I do think both will see playing time. The ODU team that beat us last year lost their best receiver to us, Ali Jennings. And we got 2 other studs in the transfer portal at the wide receiver position as well. Daquan Felton, 6'4" guy from Norfolk State. He can be a good outside target. Ali Jennings, like I said, he's going to be our primary guy. And we got Jalen Lane from Middle Tennessee, who's a speedster in the slot. The real worry is the O-line. And if you got a quarterback that's not as mobile and not as good at decision-making like Grant Wells was last year, he only had 2,100 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, threw the ball under 60%. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. So the O-line not really taking a step does worry me. We have the 21st ranked transfer portal class this past year based on average rating of the prospect. So like we got better. Probably flipped over 50% of our roster from when he got here, which is an insane number. But he told them boys like, hey, we're here to do something, and if you're not with it, you got to go. And he got rid of everyone that seemed like they didn't want to do it. So I'm with that, but our offense was 118th in the country. Pretty sure there's only 132. So we were bad. We were really bad. The defense was fine. They weren't great. But this the ODU team, the only thing that makes me nervous is this sophomore running back they have, Blake Watson. He's really good, but they lost their QB from last year. They didn't get anybody in the portal. I've got Virginia Tech winning 24-14. I don't like the spread is 14.5. I don't think we're beating them by 15 points. I just don't.
I'm going to take Virginia Tech. My mind is telling me Old Dominion because I talked a lot of trash last year, and then surprisingly, I watched the game from my house, and Old Dominion pulled off something, but it's college football. You never know. I'm going to take Virginia Tech. They're going to beat Old Dominion only by 3 points. I'm going to take them only by three because I'm just I don't like Grant Wells at quarterback. I've learned a lot from Brett Pride being on our channel about defense. The defense is not the issue. The offense just makes no sense. Do we want to pass the ball? Do we want to run the ball? Do we want to mix it up? Do we want to be a running team, an RPO team? The play calling was out of sequence when I went to the game last year against Miami. It's very out of sequence. I mean, do we want to throw bubble screens? Do we want to go down the field? I mean, what is
It
it? Do
goes
we
with
want to go
talent
four
too. We
wide,
didn't
five?
have a very talented receiving core. Our running back room was banged up the entire year. We added some depth there. And another interesting note, we lost 4 one-possession games last year. So 3-8, I would count that UVA game. If we would have played, we would have beat them. They're so sorry. It's ridiculous. So say we go 4-8 last year. 4 of those losses, we lost by 1 to NC State, who was the 24th team in the country. We lost by 1 to Georgia Tech as well. And then we lost by 3 to ODU and lost by 6 to Miami. So that's 4 one-possession games, that one bounce of the ball going the other way, one Grant Wells just keeping it instead of throwing it into a defender's chest. Like this one play like that could have turned that team into a 7-win team, 8-win team maybe.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I hope to see good things from Virginia Tech. Um, Total Pool Nation would do do some things, do some big things. I might hit up there for free. Don't know which game, but I will be hitting up free for a home game this year. Whenever it is, whatever time that happens, they better win. Because every time I go up there, they be damn losing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the problem is. But the next game I want to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, LSU versus Florida State. The reason
Yeah.
why this is my favorite game of the year because last year on Labor Day, ladies and gentlemen, Florida State might be back. Now, I know Brian Kelly. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I was very mad that Brian Kelly took the job of LSU, but there was a reason why he took the job. He said he wanted to beat Nick Saban. He did beat Nick Saban last year. 2-point conversion. They won. They knocked Alabama out the top 4 in the college football playoff. But Jaden Daniels at quarterback. You got Jordan Travis at quarterback for Florida State. Mike Norvell, who's a former coach for Memphis and whatever. Florida State's back, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to take Florida State to beat LSU. And there's a possibility that Florida State could win the ACC. So, what do you think about this? Florida State has a very good offense, very good defense. Running backs is great. The special team is very excellent. The special teams in last year's game um, did something when they blocked the field goal, extra point, or whatnot. It was a very competitive game last year. Um, this game will be played, I think, on a neutral site as well as last year. Who you got winning between LSU and Florida State?
I got Florida State winning as well. I got them 28-4. Both teams have top, you could say 6, 7, probably 6 QBs in the country. Jordan Travis for Florida State's top 3 guy. I think it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jordan Travis. He's phenomenal. But on LSU, Jane Daniels is great as well. He's more dual threat. Both of them can run, but Daniels had 900 rushing yards last year and 11 touchdowns on the ground. So they're both throwing the ball efficiently. They don't turn it over. Roughly the same amount of yards. LSU lost Boot, who didn't show up as well last year. They retained Malik Neighbors, who had over 1,000 yards. They had the second-ranked transfer class. But guess who had the first? Florida State. Their transfer class, based on average ranking of the recruits, they're number 1 by a mile. They lost 5 guys to Colorado, so that Dion effect is happening a little bit. But they're returning a lot of all-conference guys, and I think they edge it out.
Florida State, the game will be competitive. Florida State, LSU, I think it's going to be 30. It's going to be about 31-30. They're going to fight. It's going to be a different game than it was last year. I think LSU is going to really learn from this game last year, but LSU, I think, struggled in closing out games. I think Brian Kelly will get his team to at least maybe 11 wins. Last year, LSU won 10 games. They were 10-4 last year, including that bowl win. So I think Florida State pulls it off. I think Florida State, in order for them to win the ACC, they had to be LSU. They have to be the good team. Um, that's in. LSU is ranked number 5. I've already made a video talking about how disrespectful the top 25 is because you put LSU above Tennessee. that's terrible. So LSU is the number 5 ranked team, and Florida State, I think, is in like the mid tens or
They're
whatnot.
eight.
So I'm just 8. Well, eight's not bad, but I mean, LSU does not deserve to be the number 5 team. So, we'll see if they're number 5 when they play. So the rankings are stupid and terrible. But the last game of college football, Navy versus Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is my second favorite team, but we got some good things. Marcus Freeman, very good. I'm sold on that man. He won 9-4 last year, despite going 0-2, losing to Ohio State and Marshall. You got the quarterback from Wake Forest, Sam Hartman. We're gonna be better. We're gonna be throwing that
He's a
ball.
dog.
We got running back in Audric Estimine, who is very big, physical. The way he ran against Clemson. Notre Dame did lose their offensive coordinator to Alabama and Tommy Rees, but that doesn't really change the fact Notre Dame will probably beat the crap out of Navy. Navy did fire the coach last year, so Navy's rebuilding that football program. But the reason why this game is popular because this game is played in Ireland. So I got Notre Dame beating Navy probably by 10 points because new quarterback. Not saying that I'm not sold on Notre Dame, but Notre Dame might lose games that we shouldn't, lose to. And I feel like this might be the game, first game of the year. We start off 0-2 last year. It could be close, and we somehow pull off a way to win. What do you think about this game?
I hope it's not close, man. I think that Notre Dame, and it's not some hot take, but I think that Notre Dame's talent level compared to Navy is just so lopsided. It's ridiculous. The line is 20.5, so they're expecting a roll. I got them winning by 21. They had, getting Sam Hartman, who threw for 3,700 yards, 38 touchdowns, had 130 yards on the ground and another touchdown. So not too much on the ground last year. Year before that, he had 360 yards on the ground and 11 rushing touchdowns. So he's filthy. And it's a big upgrade from the dude last year. You guys, good record sometimes. You got some cupcakes thrown in on the schedule last year. I hope that this is one of them because there's no reason with the stats that are behind this Navy team that you guys shouldn't just demolish them. Navy's QB threw for 5 touchdowns last year. And again, they run that triple wing option stuff. So they're not expected to throw. But he only threw the ball 91 times. He completed 46%. And he only added 300 yards on the ground. They're returning both of their top running backs, which is obviously super important for a team that only runs the ball. But no one's transferring to them. They're losing guys that have like 2 or 3 stars. Like they're not big guys that they're losing, but they're not getting anybody back. Terrible offense, 50th ranked defense. I think Notre Dame is whooping that ass.
I do agree, and that brings into the NFL stuff. So, first game to see the NFL will be September 7th. Like I said, it was only 2 weeks away because once college football starts, the NFL going to start too. So, I'm going to preview the very first game, the Lions versus the Chiefs. Chiefs at home, defending Super Bowl champs, but also you got the Lions. You got a fired up third-year head coach Dan Campbell. You got a fired up Lions squad. Um, Thursday night game in Kansas City. Everybody's fired up. You got Pat Mahomes. If you watch quarterback, Pat Mahomes, he's the top quarterback right now. You got Jared Goff, who was, we thought, he was somewhat all right with the Rams and whatnot. But Jared Goff is a pretty good quarterback with the Lions. They have a good wide receiver core. You have Amari St. Brown. I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win this one. I think the Lions will be competitive, but the Chiefs know how to win games.
How close do you think?
I would take the Chiefs going to score at least 30. I say 30-23. They're going to
I
score
got
at least 30.
31. Yeah, I got 31-27. That was my guess. They never cover. I've lost way too much money on the Chiefs betting their money line. They're at 6.5. Not money line, the spread. They're at 6.5. I don't think that they're winning by a touchdown. I got a 4-point cushion for them. The Lions are going to be really good, and I think they're gonna show that on Thursday. It's just like you said, that defense of Kansas City is legit. Their D line, especially, and then if you have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on one side, they got a deep running back room. Uh, and MVP Pat, man, like both teams are going to give up yards, which is why I'm thinking 31-27, like a little bit higher scoring. Uh, but it's impossible to pick the Lions over the Chiefs, I think, as of right now.
I agree. So we'll see how that game goes. But the second game I want to preview is the 49ers and the Steelers, ladies and gentlemen. I think the 49ers are going to beat the Steelers at home. I think the Steelers have no chance of beating the 49ers, and that defensive line and Brock Purdy's time to shine. But also, don't underestimate the Steelers defense either, because every time TJ Watt plays, I mean, they're like at least, 17-7 when TJ Watt plays and whatnot. So they have a pretty good record when TJ Watt plays. They win. But it's going to come down to their offense. How consistent is the Steelers running game? They got a very good, talented wide receiver core. I mean, you got George Pickens. I mean, he got some very good guys. But I'm going to take the 49ers to win this game. On the road, I think I got them 20-17. They'll win by a game-winning field goal. It's going to come down to defense. They'll win by the game-winning field goal. Brock Purdy will drive them down the field when it matters. They'll do some RPO stuff. They'll do a jet sweep with Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. They'll get the drive they need to get. Score 2017 with seconds expiring.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said earlier, the Niners have a top 3 roster in the league. And also, like I said earlier, I don't think Kenny is going to make as big of a step as they need him to. Their defense, like you just said, is ridiculous. It's good. 10th based on scoring last year, and they added Patrick Peterson and Joey Porter Jr. Those are 2 dogs immediately in the starting lineup. So, Brock's going to have to throw a little bit more than 150 yards, I think. And if he doesn't, it's going to be the Christian McCaffrey show. I've got them winning as well, 24-14. I think, there's just too many weapons that we saw Brock manage well last year to not expect him to put up a decent start to this season.
I do agree. And I think if Brock Purdy don't pass for over 150 yards, Christian McCaffrey might run for about 100, and then Deebo might run for, at least 70 off jet
Yeah.
sweeps. So
Yeah.
I'm not sold on the Steelers stopping the run, but they can probably stop the pass. But I'm not sold on them stopping the run. They hadn't had the ability to really stop the run against running teams. The 49ers got a big offensive line, so I'm going to take the 49ers. Week 1, the third game I want to predict is the Eagles, who went to the Super Bowl, versus my New England Patriots. But the only reason why the game is special is because Tom Brady will retire his jersey that game. And it's a primetime game on CBS at 4:25. Of course, I'm going to take the Patriots to win. It's at home. It's in Foxborough. But I think the Eagles are going to struggle. Here's why they're going to struggle, ladies and gentlemen. You lost your offensive coordinator. You lost your defensive coordinator. You lost a lot of guys. How good is Jalen Hurts going to be this year? How good are they going to be? You got the Patriots in the top tier defense. They're going to be better. They're not the same sorry offense no more. I know the Patriots tend to struggle in September, but how good are the Eagles, and do the Patriots have some way of pulling it off? I think the only way the Patriots may somewhat win it is you got to take the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands and make him throw the ball. You can't make him run it. We're not good with mobile quarterbacks, by the way.
Yeah, it's tough when you are forcing somebody to throw to AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. You got to pick. As much as it pains me to say, as a Dallas fan, they're so talented. You got to pick your poison with how you want them to score because they're going to score. They did lose some guys on defense. They replaced them. They replaced some positions in the draft. Obviously, loading up on Georgia players is infuriating for me to see. And they got Swift in there to try and replace Miles Sanders' production. I don't know if he can do that because he can't stay healthy. So we'll see. And I also had noted that losing both coordinators is obviously going to, make a little bit harder to be just as good right away. But I mean, Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate for a reason. He had 13 touchdowns on the ground to go with his 22 in the air, only 6 interceptions. And they got the best O-line in football. So, I think, like I said earlier, Zeke's going to help out a lot for the Pats, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think Juju's enough for this team specifically, just going against the Eagles, how talented they are. I got the Eagles up 24-17.
No hard feelings. No hard feelings at all because, I mean, it's 18 games. It's long. I'm just hyped about the Patriots because we got an offensive coordinator, so there's no excuses. So I'm going to say, as of right now, we're going to win the Super Bowl until we don't win the Super Bowl. I want to say that last year with two.
How are you better than me then? If I want to say that we're going to win the Super Bowl,
because the Cowboys.
Our team on paper is way better.
Hey, wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Wait a minute. On paper, it's different than on the damn field. I'm just saying. On paper, it's different.
We won 12 games last year.
Oh my God! I mean, 12 games and what?
And we won 12 games the year before.
You hadn't been to the NFC Championship game since 1995.
Trust me, brother. I know. I'm waiting to see it.
1995.
I want to see. I want to see it too.
Me and you weren't born in 1995. That's how long it's been. That's how long it's been. Yeah. I'm not saying that you can't say that your team ain't going to the Super Bowl. I'm not gonna say you can't say that. You can say whatever you want. I'm just saying with other Cowboy fans, you're not a delusional.
They're obnoxious with it.
Yes, you're not delusional. See, that's why I respect you because you're not a delusional Cowboys fan. Other people are delusional Cowboys fan. They can say they go 4-12, so say we're going to Super Bowl next year. But that talks about the Sunday Night Football game, Week 1, the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Now I'm going to pick the Cowboys, even though I'm a Cowboys hater. I'm going to be realistic about the Cowboys. I said they're going to win 12 games. I don't see the Giants beating the Cowboys. Is Daniel Jones that guy? They paid that man, $140 million guaranteed in the offseason. His full contract is like $164 million over 4 years. That man, Saquon Barkley, call him Vanilla Ice. I don't think Daniel Jones, ladies and gentlemen, is all that, by the way. I think they got by and they won because Brian Daboll, under the Nick Saban tree, under the Bill Belichick tree, they ran the ball and played defense. When you force Daniel Jones to throw the ball, I understand he only had 5 interceptions last year, but the Cowboys defense, you got Stephon Gilmore, Trey Diggs, you got a good defensive line, you got Micah Parsons. You expect Daniel Jones to throw the ball, you're going to lose. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys and win this one by 21 points. 21 points. Just because just because the Giants are going to struggle. Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott. Come on. I'm taking Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones. I'm not stupid. I'm ahead of the Cowboys, bro. I'm not stupid. Dak Prescott, he's going to go off the first game as Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy's going to call plays. That might be an up and down situation. But the Giants, I've never been told the Giants to even beat the Cowboys. So I'm sticking with the Cowboys to beat them by 21. It's going to get ugly.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that, man. I've got it. I got a little bit tired, like 28-17. I think they're going to get theirs. Saquon is good. I mean, their offense did get better, and like you said, like he only threw 5 picks, Daniel Jones, but he also only threw 15 touchdowns. So, yeah, like he's I don't think he's worth 40 a year, which is what they're giving him, and sign that skimpy little thing for Saquon. I think they had their priorities a little out of whack there. But getting Jalen Hyatt's big. Paris Campbell from the Colts, I think he's a good role player, like wide receiver 3 type guy. And Darren Waller is a really big pickup too. So I don't want to sleep on their offense. I do think, and Daniel Jones ran for 700 yards. So I don't want to sleep on their offense at all, but their defense didn't get better. They have a few good guys like on the line and like a linebacker. But when you look at our team, Brandon Cooks coming in at wide receiver 2 is a big upgrade. Gallup seems to be healthy finally, so we can go back to seeing what he can actually do versus what he's put on the field last year. CeeDee's going to establish himself as, I think he already has, as like a top 7 guy. I want to see him top 5 at the end of this year. And I want to just say relax about Dak Prescott. He'll be fine. He hasn't I'm just saying, in his career, he's a 260-yard a game guy. His touchdown to interception ratio is like 2.6 to 1, so it's not the best, but he's not going out there. It like really at any points of his career until this past year and just throwing the ball around. He's 67% completion percentage on his career. And when you go look at the tape of how these balls were getting picked, he had 15, and I want to say 7 of them are off of a receiver's hands or off of his chest. I mean, what do you want to do? I was watching that Titans game, I remember, at a bar with my dad, and the who was it? Dalton Schultz let the thing bounce right off of his chest, and he just shoveled it, basically, like handed it to the Titans defender. He'll be fine. We got a better core now to where that's not happening. Noah Brown's not on the team. He's barely going to be on the Texans this year. That's how bad he was. I got us winning this game comfortably. I also don't think the Giants are going to win more than 9 games next year. But yeah, 28-17. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there.
No. You're fine. Forgot all you Dallas Cowboy fans. You forgot that Mike McCarthy is calling plays, and the new offensive coordinator is Brian Schottenheimer. Okay, Brian Schottenheimer was a former offensive coordinator at this under Russell Wilson. Brian Schottenheimer goes all the way back to the Rex Ryan days. I mean, he's a very older offensive coordinator, so he won't have any input. Mike McCarthy is going to call the plays, ladies and gentlemen. So when the Cowboys fall, it's going to become Mike McCarthy calling plays because he tried to call plays for Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers didn't like that. He shipped them right out of Green Bay because he tried to call plays.
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl, though.
Well, I mean, that 1 year. What happened after that?
I'll take one. We just said I haven't been there since '95 to the NFC Championship. I'll take one Super Bowl, brother. I'll take one.
I mean, you might be 50 years old by the time the Cowboys go to the Super Bowl, but we'll see how that goes. That's going to be something. That's going to be something for later on. We're almost done with the show. The last topic we're going to talk about Monday Night Football: Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. Good primetime Monday night game. Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen. That is going to be probably the game of the week. In New York, Jets are at home. Well, yeah, Jets at home. I hate the Bills, but I'm going to take the Bills to win this one. Josh Allen is too good. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Isaiah McKinney. They have a new running back, I think, because I think the running back got hurt with an MCL in training camp. The Bills' defense has always been good. Tre'Davious White, Leslie Frazier, the good defensive coordinator. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to probably win by 7. I think it will be 24-17 because of the Jets' defense. And I think the Jets' O-line will still continue to struggle until they can fix it. Or unless Aaron Rodgers on his Instagram tagged David Bakhtiari. So unless the Packers want to trade for David Bakhtiari, then you might win. But as of now, O-line struggles, Jets lose, Bills win 24-17.
Yeah, I got the Bills winning as well. 24-21 is how I saw it, which is very close. The line is -1.5 for Buffalo, so the books are expecting it to be close as well. The Bills had 40 sacks last year, and we've hammered it enough, but I'm going to hammer it again. This offensive line is a problem, and going against a team that has Von Miller coming around every single play, like you can't. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully their tackles will be fine. That doesn't really seem to be where the issue is. The issue's in the guards, but I mean the D line of the Bills, Ed Oliver as well. Like he's huge. That's why I've got the Bills winning. But the running back room is deep, obviously in New York with Cook and Hall, and then Michael Carter is a good third string to have. I think he'd be a running back too, almost anywhere else. Aaron's going to bounce back. I'm not worried about that. And they got Alan Lazard and McCole Hardman. They had the 29th ranked offense last year, the Jets. So that's obviously going to go up a good amount. And they had the fourth defense based on points allowed. So the defense is going to be fine. Offense, the only thing to get over, I think, is that offensive line.
I do agree for that one. Now, the last thing, the show is about done, but the last thing, and we're going to say on television, on YouTube, Patriots versus the Cowboys, week 4, October 1st. How much money are we going to put on this one?
I don't know if we're flaunting money out here or anything, but I'll match whatever you want to put up.
Is 25 good or you want to put 50 on it?
I'll put 50. Come on now.
All right, $50.
Scared money don't make money.
All right, Total Pro Nation, between me and my brother, we're going to put $50 on the Cowboys in the Patriots game. It's at Dallas on October 1st. That is 2 days before I take my vacation to New York. And I'll be watching that game at home, talking smack, talking shit, all the way until... Now, I'm not one of those people that talk shit after every damn possession. I'll probably wait till like the second half and start talking shit. I'm not one of those guys that runs their mouth after every single, possession. That's kind of annoying. You want to watch the game. But $50 bet, it's going to be on the line. I did it to other Cowboy fans as well. They want to bet me $50 so bad. So if I take 50 from him, from somebody else, but $50 bet, October 1st, Cowboys versus Patriots. I guess they play each other every 2 years now. Zeke is going to get his revenge. Jerry Jones, all the talk, all the hype. That's going to be a primetime game. That's something I can't wait for. I can't wait till October 1st, but I can't wait till this weekend either. So, Total Pro Nation, that is it for the broadcast of sports. Total Pro Nation, tune in tomorrow at 7:30. I'll be on a Life Lessons podcast featuring with head coach Troy Taylor of the LC Bird Skyhawks at 7:30 in the morning. But also thank you to my partner in crime and my brother Matthew over here, big Cowboys fan. Appreciate him for being on the show. And whenever he's not partying too much or whatever, he has a free schedule, I will put him on this platform and he could teach you some knowledge about sports. But Totem Pole Nation, sponsored by St. Pete Rejuvenate, sponsored by Cultivate Wellness, get your CBD, and also our new sponsor, Sideline Design, make the best thumbnails. We'll be catching you later on, Totem Pole Nation. Tune in tomorrow morning.